2021 best described perhaps as a year of recovery for Forces Sport, although the entire winter programme was wiped out. It was from the spring onwards that sport at all levels began to take off again.
The whole of the Navy sport fraternity was like a veritable coiled spring. So when they got the opportunity, off they launched. So it was tremendous. So to be able to witness that, to be able to see that, to be able to get around the country again and see the young men and women, being exposed to the huge benefits, physical and mental of sport and exercise, was quite tremendous.
I think the key for us overall is just been the joy, even the glee on people's faces, getting back to the sports they love at whatever level, and just being out there amongst each other, doing what they enjoy doing and developing themselves, as they go.
If proof was ever needed that we got the process right, and critically to ensure that those athletes were conditioned appropriately for some of the high level of sports that they're playing, then you only have to look at the success that the Army's had really in the inter-services since we've come back from lockdown.
The single services were brilliant in getting activity going again. The trouble at the UCAF level, UK Armed Forces level, is that, of course, that's the pinnacle of the service sort of level of sport. And so it takes time to build up to that. I just think that we've worked well over this period to make sure that we can structure and deliver our sports well. And I hope that background will, or that foundation will serve us well.
And there have been plenty of highlights.
We had success at athletics, we had success in golf, really close with the ladies' golf down at Salton Sands, but that's why we do sport, that's the challenge we have for it. We've seen some innovation with the esports and e-cycling championships, and a clean sweep at the inter-services we will see in wakeboarding. Culminating ultimately, as you well know from the sports awards held here at Halton only a couple of weeks ago, fabulous to get people back in the room and the buzz of excitement and anticipation. There's some brilliant stories in there, from world champions to our Paralympic sportswomen of the year, through to the team, and some great COVID awards for people who are global champions in some cases, for people who have kept their sports going and pushed brilliantly to make sure we can achieve some stuff, as well as those who have been at the forefront of COVID and also being contributing to their sports at the same time.
I think success across the sport has really been highlighted with the women's Army sport. We spoke a minute ago about Army Rugby League. Fantastic winners of the Army Sports Team of the Year, as you know, and they won the inter-services. Carrie Roberts, representing England, and Jess McCauley representing Wales. England against Wales, and Beth Dainton, of course. The first Army player to play for the Barbarians against South Africa in front of 30,000 the other week. Army women's cricket again winning the inter-services and doing really well against civilian clubs. Army women's cycling dominating the inter-services. We know well about Karis Arkenstall and her exploits in the Olympics. That went really well. But we've got Tori Willits and Megan Reid doing really well on that platform as well. And the likes of people like Kat Matthews, who are really sort of pioneering and leading the way on the Army triathlon piece.
I think from here on in, we will always have now a mix of the virtual and the physical. Yeah. So we've had virtual rowing competitions. And virtual running competitions where people go out and run all over the world, but then upload their results to Strava and applications like that. Even the dressage, which was being filmed, as people were doing it on their own, and then the results are then being submitted for judging because of the inability to come together as a group.
So what for 2022? COVID permitting, there's potentially a big year ahead, with Forces athletes hoping to compete at the highest levels, from the Winter Olympics to the Commonwealth Games.
I'm really looking forward to the Army and Navy rugby match resuming. That is really one of our flagship games, and I'm looking forward to that resuming. I'm also really hoping that our other flagship event, which is our Alpine Championships, takes place in January. We've got just over 1,000 people earmarked to go out to that.
We've seen a return to normal levels of fixtures, normal levels of OVs being planned for next year. We'll test and adjust as we go forward. But we've had over 800 fixtures in the UK since July, planned, done or scheduled. And that's the kind of level we're talking about, normal levels of activity going forward. Brilliant if we can to get some winter sports, the ice sliders, the alpine sports as well. And plans are well advanced for those, and looking forward as well to UK Armed Forces winter sports season as well. Subject to, and we've always had that subject to, what happens with COVID. But in truth, I'm pretty optimistic at the moment. I don't want to tempt anything there. But I think we've learned to live and learned to manage. And as head of RAF Sport has said, we need to get as close as we can to normal.
I think it would be the greatest achievement if we could just get one season in, to be honest. But I think that would be a great achievement. I mean, of course, we're all worried about, what this, how we might manage this Omicron in the future. But yeah, you touched on the Winter Olympics in Beijing. And we're hopeful that we might get 2 or 3 Army individuals selected for the GB team. The return of the inter-services rugby, of course, we've all been crying out for that, and the Army-Navy game at Twickenham. Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, of course, really big, where we might achieve double-figure representation at these games if everything goes well. And then finally, there's the World Master Games in Kansai in Japan, which continues to be shifted to the right. But we remain hopeful it'll take place now in the sort of end of the autumn of 2022.
The difficulty will be, as I think we found already, that because the armed forces were so committed to the COVID sort of commitment to help the essential services and so on, we've got to do a regain in terms of operational capability. And so there's a little bit of a conflict of trying to get that operational capability, that delivery and training all done at the same time as running sport. And so we've got to try and balance that in the right sort of way. And so I just hope that, the people are still available, because the structures are there for the delivery. We just got to make sure we get the right people out.